Hi, and welcome to another episode of PDA Dad UK. I want to talk about something a bit different, and it's actually taking the focus off of our kids and our family members and actually putting the focus onto us as people, as carers, as parents, as the people looking after our families. We do a hard job. And it's a job that a lot of people don't understand unless you're actually in the position of being a carer full time and having to work and live day in, day out with the challenges and issues we face. It's not something many people can understand without having experienced it themselves. It's a draining job, and it's 24/7. It's from the second you get up. It's often during the night when you should be asleep, when they won't sleep. It can be, you can be pulled away at any time, needing to go put out spot fires as they occur. You're on the go all the time, and you're always thinking about it. No matter what's going on, your mind is ticking over, and it's exhausting. And I experienced this myself at the end of the summer holidays last year. It was a particularly long summer holiday for some reason. It just seemed to work. I think they had some inset days for my daughter's school, and so what was normally a 6-week, which is exhausting time, turned into a 7-week summer break. And by the end of it, I was exhausted, really drained, and on the cusp of being really burnt out. And there's many reasons for that. My daughter doesn't operate well if she's stuck in the house. We have to go out every day and do something that's going to entertain her, allow her to run around, burn off some of the energy. Otherwise she's going to be up till 3 o'clock in the morning and won't sleep. And it's really difficult and challenging to deal with, and especially when it's not 7 weeks on the trot and you're just always on the go and doing something. At the end of that, and you're dealing with the behaviors and the challenging behaviors that come with that as well, meltdowns and struggles, anxiety, and just that constantly being on the go, constantly having to be alert and aware of what she's doing and where she is and who she's doing what to, or whatever the case may be. And in that, other family members, I've got a 4-year-old son, and my wife is quite poorly, having to juggle all those things. End of 7 weeks, I was a wreck, and I had to reach out for some help. I'm going to come back to that in a bit, but what I want to focus on first is that important aspect of looking after yourself. Some of the best advice I ever received was from my wife's key worker at the time. She could see where things were going. I was on the go all the time. I was sort of juggling between my daughter's issues, my wife's struggles, having a 4-year-old toddler. He was 2 years old at the time, just starting to be a toddler and getting into things. And I'd been sort of put in a position where I had to become a full-time carer. I was told by professionals, you need to cut your business up for a while, put it on the shelf. Right now you're needed at home. And they sort of put that all into place. But she sat me down and she said, you need to etch out some time for you. You need to be able to sit down and do something that's just for you, or you're going to burn out really quickly. And it feels selfish. It felt selfish to me. Yeah, but these guys all need me, I can wait. But she said, no, you are going to burn out. And it was the best advice I ever got, as I say. And it's one of those things that, as I reflected on it, reminds me of when you're on a plane, when you sit down on a plane and you're about to take off. They go through the steward or stewardess, whoever it is, sits up the front or stands up the front, and they take you through the process of the safety procedures on the plane. And they always talk about if the oxygen masks drop down from above, and they go through a process with it. And if you've got kids with you, if you've got children next to you, make sure you secure your mask first before securing masks to the kids. The reason they tell you to do this is because you need to be conscious, awake, and at your best in order to help your kids the best. If you were to reverse that order and you lost consciousness, no one's going to be there for the kids because they're all going to be running around doing other things. You're the one who's going to be focused on your kids. And it's the same for us in this situation. if we don't take that time for ourselves, we're going to burn out. And if we burn out, who is going to be there for our kids? Who's going to be there for our family members who need us at that point in time? So it's being prepared to find something to do for yourself. Now, for me, music's my refuge. I love listening to music. I love playing music. I play guitar. In fact, the afternoon when I was told that, I went out and I bought myself an electric guitar, which I haven't had for a long time. I've had my acoustic for all that time, but I hadn't played electric in a long while. And I went out and I bought myself an electric. It was actually my dream guitar. And I'm so glad I did. It's been a lifeline for me. If I'm feeling really stressed, picking up the guitar and having a play, having a bit of a sing, just takes me to another place and I feel released. Likewise, I can just plug in some headphones and listen to some good music, or what I think is good music. Most people disagree, but hey, what I think is good music, and I can chill out and I can zone out and recharge. And it's on that recharging that's interesting, another sort of analogy that you can bring in. There's not a device, you're probably watching this on a phone, and your phone has got charge in it. If it didn't have charge, you wouldn't be watching this because it wouldn't be functioning properly. It wouldn't be working. If you're not taking time to recharge, then you're not going to function properly in the same way. So it's about picking out just a couple of things, one or two things that you really love that do recharge you, do allow you to escape. For some people, it might be mindfulness, meditation. It might be music, like for myself. It might be reading a book. Might be just watching a TV show for half an hour, something that you just take out that is for you and time to recharge and regenerate. Because what you don't want to do is burn out. And that sort of brings me to the second part of this. We've seen a couple of people on the group that I run on Facebook who've been in really challenging situations where they are burnt out. And when you're burnt out, you don't function the way you should. Your brain doesn't function the way you should. You can feel desperate. It's when depression hits. And depression's a really big thing. I went through a depression about 12 years ago. Before all of the having kids and family and all the stress of that, I went through depression for completely different reasons. It was about dealing with a lot of stuff from my childhood. And I was driving home one afternoon and I was just suddenly overwhelmed with just sorrow and hopelessness. I felt as low as I've ever felt in my life, and I felt like I could literally drive my car off the edge of a cliff and I'd be quite happy with that. The irony was I lived in a place called Dubbo in Australia, and if you've ever been there, you'll know it's flat as a billiard table, and I'd have had to drive for about 3 hours to find anything that resembled a cliff anywhere. But the point was, in my head, it was about I could just happily end this right now, and I can, and no one was going to miss me. Blah 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 blah. I was just, that's what was going on in my head. You don't matter, and that's how it was talking to me. And it was a form of burnout from the emotional duress I was under from dealing with a lot of stuff from childhood, as I say. I was lucky enough that I had a really good set of friends, and my best friend, a guy called Al, he kind of took care of me. I spoke to him and I said, I'm really struggling, man, and he helped me. He contacted my work, he let them know that I was really struggling. He managed to help them organise me some time off so that I had some time to recoup. Got me to a doctor, and the doctor put me onto some therapeutic help. So I was receiving therapy for a little while, and he got me on some, they were just mild ones, but they were an antidepressant that helped me to get through that. A lot of people are very concerned about taking medications and things like that, but he explained it in a really good way. It's like taking vitamin C. If we've got a vitamin deficiency in our bodies, we will take a supplement. If we're lacking vitamin C, we will take vitamin C, and that replenishes what we're missing. When we go through depressions and when we go through burnout and struggles, it's actually the chemicals are lacking in our brain quite often. It's actually the overuse has sort of stressed the synapse, and they can't communicate effectively. So taking a medication is really necessary because it helps us to process that and to replace what's missing so that our brain can function effectively. The other key factor that was in there was that I spoke to people. I actually took the time, recognized in my head, this isn't right, this isn't rational thinking, this isn't me. And I was able to reach out to my friends and was able to talk to people and acknowledge where I was at. Talking about where we're at is so important. The hashtag at the moment, it's okay not to be okay. It couldn't be truer. We are going to struggle in the role as carers, in the role as parents in general. I don't care, you know, whether your kids are neurotypical, whether they're autistic, whether they're you know, severely disabled in physical ways, whether they're, it doesn't matter, you know, you are going to hit a point where you are going to struggle and you need to be able to reach out and talk to people. Now that might be reaching out to people on a group on Facebook, it might be reaching out to friends, but just reach out to someone. Call the Samaritans. My mum is a Samaritan's phone operator, and the work they do is amazing. You know, they're there 24/7 to talk to people who are in that need, in that point of crisis. And if you're there, there's a certain thing that goes on. It goes on for me when the idea of reaching out and admitting that I need help, it appears weak. But it's one of those things that's a complete oxymoron. It's actually in the strength, it's, you know, in that moment of weakness, I guess, when we acknowledge our vulnerabilities, that we're strongest. You know, and you know, I've got friends and people I know of who we've lost over time because they haven't had the ability to talk to people. And if you're on the other side and you think that I'm worried Duncan's struggling at the moment and he needs some help of some kind, pick up the phone, send a text, knock on the door, do something that just says, hey, I'm here, I care, and if you need to talk, I'm here for you, no judgment, you know, I'm just there for you. It's so important, and it might just save someone's life and certainly save a family from, you know, the aftermath of stuff like that. So I'll pop up at the end of this a bunch of links to different groups that are available that you can reach out to if you're struggling, if you're feeling depression, if you're feeling, you know, suicidal, if you're feeling like you want to hurt yourself. Reach out to professionals, reach out to friends and talk to somebody. It is so important. So that's all I really have to say on this one. It's not the longest one, but it's a really, really important one. So please, take note, look after yourself. You are really important. You're the most important person in your family's life. And if you're not functioning, they're not going to be able to function. So taking that time for yourself isn't selfish, it's actually a selfless act, because you're making sure you're at your best so that you can be at your best for them. And that's really important. Much love, and I'll see you next time.